Was expecting things to be a little bit sideways in the equities market this morning, doing better than expected, but not crazy stuff happening yet. Tesla up nicely, but the action, of course, is in other places the like the bond market and the oil market. Anyway, we'll talk about all that coming up. What happened to the all hands on deck talk we were supposed to have from Elon a week or so after the last earnings call? It never happened. I think that there were too many important things that couldn't be talked about, or that if they were talked about would cause even more confusion among the actual employees and management at Tesla, because there's so many things that are up in the air. So specifically, until Elon makes it clear on the Model 2 plan, after all the kerfluffle last week, the stock is likely to have at least somewhat of a Model 2 hangover. We're on the verge of solving FSD, and that has massive implications. So it's a little wonder that there's a bunch of chatter about what is needed to get to the Robotaxi level and what impact that might have on various models, including the Model 3 and the Gen 3 or the Model 2 vehicle. Well, maybe we'll get some clarity today at 3 o'clock California time this afternoon, because Elon's going to have an interview with a major fund over in Europe, which has a significant investment in Tesla. And so asking the question, what the heck is really happening with the Gen 3 would be an obvious question. Also, getting a more realistic answer on the expectations for FSD over the next 90 days or so, up until August 8th, would be also something I would expect this individual to ask. Now then, we're only 16 days away from the earnings call, and I have a list of questions a mile long that would be at the top of, and here are 10 that would be the top of my list. And I'd like you in the comments below to tell me, what do you want to know? What are your top questions? Or maybe you like my top 10 questions. Just let me know. Here they are very quickly, because we have a lot to cover this morning. Number one, what is the current plan for rolling out the Gen 3 vehicle? What is it really in detail? What are we really expecting here? Number two, how do you see FSD moving to level 4? How soon is that going to happen? When is that going to happen? What do we need to know about that? Number three, will there be an official supervised FSD rides on Uber soon? Right now, there are people that are doing it with no official permission from Uber to do it. Will Uber make that official soon? Number four, any current conversations about licensing FSD to some other car company? Last time, the statement was just simply, we're in conversations. Okay, are you in conversations now? Are those conversations progressing along, et cetera? Number five, can you give us any color on the uptake for FSD since the start of the 30-day program? There's been some chatter around people saying that they know that there has been more uptake. I'm sure there has been more uptake. How is it affecting sales? Do we see any effect on sales? Those would be lovely things to know. Number six, do you see Model Y sales increasing in full year 2024 over full year 2023? What can we expect with regard to the Model Y coming up? That is the big unknown with regard to unit sales this year. Number seven, any expected date for starting construction in Mexico? And by the way, Reno, same thing, because this morning there's reporting that while that land has been all leveled off and ready to go, they haven't really started putting any pilings or anything else in to start that going in Reno either. Number eight, what is holding up the ramp on energy storage? We have a bill, the one factory that is apparently running at about half speed, and then we've got Shanghai starting to build. But I thought by now we'd have, a couple more factories having on megafactories already identified and beginning to get into production. What's going on there? And then kind of related, since battery factories all over the world are running under capacity, why is Tesla seemingly battery constrained on some products? Let's talk about megapacks there, as well as Model 3s and other things. Why do we have all these problems with regard to the battery situation? And then number 10, what is your goal for 4680 production by the end of 2024? That would be a normal thing to give us an answer on. Well, that's enough for now, but I've got probably 100 questions like that, and I'm sure that you might have some ideas too, so put those down below. This is from Sawyer Merritt this morning at Canaccord. Sawyer Merritt is reporting about Canaccord Genuity analyst. He is known as Gianarica. Anyway, this is how you find him on X is Gianarkas. Yeah, how do you pronounce that? He says Tesla is increasingly a bet on autonomy. As the father of a soon-to-be driving teenager, I wish we could fast forward to a time when no person drove and the roads were governed by robots. People are not good drivers. Sorry, humanity, I love you, but you need to let go of the wheel. 44,000 people died in the U.S. in 2023 car accidents, 44,000 too many. And it's actually getting worse. People are running more red lights than ever. Road rage is on the rise. What will it take for many of us to stop resisting AVs and start cheering them? We, for our part, this is Canaccord, are autonomy uber bulls, unabashed, unrelenting. We believe AVs are set to increase resource utilization, improve productivity, save lives, and much more. We see vehicle autonomy as one of the highest value-creating technologies ever to be deployed, ever. Full autonomy not only has the potential to improve resource utilization, parentheses, the key underlying tenet of sustainability, end parentheses, but to also enhance human productivity, decongest highways, downsize vehicle fleets, provide transport to billions of underserved, and then save lives. Big stuff. Yes, the technology needs to get better and or cheaper, and regulatory needs to be clarified. But despite failed promises, autonomy is well on its way. It's all happening somewhat slowly relative to previously missed timelines, but then it'll happen all at once, kind of like ChatGPT, at least in terms of the public's willingness to let go of the wheel and the technology's ability to make it happen. Which brings us to Elon Musk and Tesla. They will be the leaders in technology, in our opinion, despite some extended deployment timetables. Yes, they have taken a different approach, controversial technology approach, but we think the market has room for multiple solutions. We cannot stand here and say definitively that Tesla's camera-only neural network approach is the technology winner long-term, or that Mobileye system, one that uses machine learning, large language LLM components, but is connected to traditional software code, is a sure technology bet, or that Aurora's hybrid approach, similar to Mobileye's with heavy use of simulated miles, is the one. What we can say, however, is that these three appear to be ahead of the pack and likely winners in their respective markets, including others like Waymo. We currently see Tesla and Mobileye as winners in the passenger AV market. Being vertically integrated is crucial to constructing a well-functioning AV system. We think many independent OEM efforts will wind down over time for reasons including lack of scale, leaving room for Mobileye to gain traction as a merchant vendor to multiple OEMs. We see Tesla's system as well-functioning and likely used exclusively for its own vehicles for some time. We see Aurora as dominant in U.S. autonomous trucking, which in our opinion is sufficient for the stock to reach their part, the Canaccord's price target. Now back to Tesla. It's been topsy-turvy lately. Even by Tesla standards, deliveries were weak, and we've written a lot on the topic. Underneath all the near-term issues, however, we found Friday's news the most interesting and important long-term. A lengthy Reuters article hit on Friday morning, implying that Tesla's next-gen vehicle was being scrapped, driving the stock down intraday. In response, Tesla remarked on that Reuters is lying. Over the weekend, Tesla chief designer Franz von Holzen reinforced Mr. Musk's statement and advised, just stay tuned. Don't always believe what you read. In the chaos, Mr. Musk announced that on 8/8, the Tesla Robotaxi would be revealed. What does that mean? Well, here's our take. It could be that the company has accelerated the development of its full Robotaxi-based car on confidence in the FSD. It could be that the low-cost Chinese EVs have led Tesla to believe its true competitive advantage would be based on more of a combination of cost and autonomy rather than cost alone. It could also be that the Reuters article is meaningless and there has possibly been another strategy shift altogether. Either way, we do not believe that the company has completely scrapped its plans for both vehicle options. We'll see if there's are any changes on timing. We are modeling 100,000 next-gen vehicles for 2026. As we wade through the noise in the news the last several weeks, which includes the 1-month free trial of FSD to all capable U.S. Tesla vehicles, one thing is clear despite the intensity of all the muddle. Tesla is increasingly a bet on autonomy. We do estimate that there will be near to middle-term return to volume growth despite the naysayers and prognosticators that this is a forever broken growth story. We also estimate margins should improve and that the energy storage growth should continue. All things should be helping earnings growth. But for the true breakthrough in margins above historical levels and for the story to significantly and sustainably outperform based on sizable upside earnings revisions, we need the razor blade model to ignite. We need a trajectory change in FSD adoption, either through the product improvements and or price cuts. FSD is getting better all the time, and what appears to us an accelerating pace, so maybe we are close to add. The Robotaxi reveal on 8/8 sounds like it will pay homage to autonomy. Tons of questions remain, but it's likely going to be an autonomy day. Take it or leave it. A bet on Tesla is a bet on the autonomous future. We'll take it. Sorry that was long, but I thought it was really, really complete in its analysis. Close, of course, to my analysis. Maybe that's why I read the whole thing. Anyway, seriously, I gave a whole bunch of different options over the weekend. If you haven't seen those videos, you can go back and check them out. But Sunday morning, Sunday night, gave a whole bunch of potential options of ways this might be playing out. By the way, this is Andy Kirk. Brian White will be on later today, and probably later Larry Goldberg, as he's traveling. It's sometimes hard to catch up with him. Last night, as I just mentioned, I took apart the Adam Jonas note on this subject as well, giving some of my ideas about what I think is going to be happening next. Liking, subscribing, and hitting notify would all be wise decisions, but even wiser than that would be going on to Patreon and joining well over 100 other folks that are helping to support the channel, and I thank all of you for doing so. All right, we got this from Matt Wallace this morning over Matt Wallace 888 over on X. Breaking news, a judge in Brazil just labeled Elon Musk and X as a criminal organization for refusing to implement strict party-controlled censorship. Justice Alexandre, it's a guy, de Moraes ruling includes a ridiculous $100,000 fine, about $20,000 per profile. This comes as the controversial elected woke Brazilian government is attempting to implement Orwellian-style authoritarianism in the country, which has a population of over 217 million people. Pretty funny to see Brazil and Argentina right now on completely different tracks. They're pushing forward with a highly invasive move to have all representatives of X be subpoenaed immediately, including by electronic means. Absolutely disgraceful, he says. Well, the markets are going to be really a bit shaky until Wednesday, and then who knows what could happen. I guarantee you that side, the general market, is also under all kinds of informational overload this morning. Israel has taken some troops out of Gaza, and that has helped calm a spooked oil market. But we'll talk more about the oil market in a minute because there's way more to that story than just that note. Reuters says this morning, Bank of America in early April increased its 2024 Brent and West Texas Intermediate price outlook to $86 and $81 per barrel, respectively, and said both were likely to peak around $95 a barrel this summer. Both likely to peak around $95 a barrel. Usually there's at least a $3 spread. Anyway, those higher prices so far have not been enough to entice U.S. drillers to boost production. Operators and service firm executives said, as many are grappling with a steep decline in the value of gas produced alongside their oil. So when you produce the oil, you're getting gas basically for free, and they sell that gas. And if they can't sell the gas for $2 a thousand cubic meters, I think. Anyway, whatever that unit of measure is, if they can't sell that gas, or so they get zero for it, or if they have to get somebody to actually remove it or pay somebody to take it because they can't just give it off into the atmosphere, then, of course, it affects their whole profit. In Texas, Louisiana, and New Mexico, producers were already cutting output in the first quarter as costs climbed. The break-even price to drill a new well in the Permian, the top U.S. shale field, rose $4 a barrel just in the last year. Now, low gas prices are creating new challenges. Natural gas prices. Henry Hub futures, the benchmark for U.S. gas, are trading below $1.80 per million. There it is, per million British thermal units. And earlier this year dropped to a 3.5-year low on warm weather and oversupply. We've been talking about this all year. I've been talking about this. It's one of the things I keep you up to date on because it's a huge deal internationally, what's happening with the price of oil and price of gas. We need gas prices to get back to $2.50 for an overall increase in activity in the Permian. Permian customers that have associated gas are seeing awful differentials, said Mark Marmo, CEO of Oil Field from Deep Well Services. In West Texas, producers are paying to have the shippers take their gas. Prices at the region's Waha hub have been below zero in several trade sessions since March, a sign that supply is sharply outpacing demand and pipeline capacity. Producers can respond by reducing their output of oil or pay to keep pulling gas out of the ground. Constrained gas pipeline and gas processing plant capacity has acted as a choke point on oil production in parts of the basin. If oil prices are high enough, the gas price becomes less of a consideration in overall drilling economics, he said. So, you know how this impacts Tesla. It impacts in so many ways. Number one, as oil prices do go up and gasoline prices go up, people are more inclined to go buy an electric car. I've seen this my entire life in the bicycle industry, and it absolutely happens in the automobile industry. We've seen it over and over and over again. So this is good for Tesla. On the other hand, high oil prices, high gas prices, high gasoline prices, all those are inflationary, and that's bad news for everybody, especially right now when we're on this kind of precipice between inflation and disinflation. All right, now we have Jamie Dimon with a warning. I really hope you've stayed for this. Wall Street Journal, JP Morgan Chase Chief Executive Jamie Dimon warned that U.S. interest rates could soar to 8% or more in coming years, reflecting the risk that record high deficit spending and geopolitical stress will complicate the fight against inflation, just like I just said. So you combine those two. Huge physical spending, the trillions needed each year for the green economy, the remilitarization of the world and the restructuring of global trade are all inflationary right now, Dimon wrote in his annual letter. Dimon, head of the nation's largest bank, acknowledged in his 61-page letter that the U.S. economy has remained resilient despite abundant skepticism by forecasters, including him. He's taken it on the chin. But he also warned that a fractious global backdrop, including wars in the Ukraine and the Middle East, could amplify economic stresses and put the expansion into jeopardy. Once again, sounding a cautious note, Dimon said he questioned the optimism in financial markets. He said investors and traders expected the Federal Reserve to engineer a so-called soft landing in which the economy avoids a recession despite a sharp increase in interest rates in recent years. Dimon said such an outcome, which implies that inflation quickly returns to the Fed's 2% target from a higher levels, is now less likely than subdued bond yields and record stock indices would seem to imply. So the bonds are telling us that inflation is not dead. These markets seem to be pricing in a 70 to 80% chance of a soft landing, Dimon wrote. I believe the odds are a lot lower than that. Dimon's outlook on the economy has been cautious for years. He warned in 22 that a hurricane was about to hit the U.S. economy as interest rates were rising. He has recently walked back some of his gloomiest statements, but Dimon is still not ready to concede that the risk of extreme volatility has subsided. Dimon said his bank is preparing for a range of scenarios where interest rates could drop to as low as 2% or head to 8% or even higher based on where the economy is headed. The 10-year Treasury rate recently is sitting at 4.42, getting very, very close to being in that 5% area again. With all that said, Truflation is down again this morning to 1.8. I am really curious to see how the CPI comes in this week compared to where Truflation is, because seeming like they're going to be way off again. I'm also wondering if Truflation is going to go into the estimating business, or whether they're going to give us a projection of what they think the actual CPI is going to come in on Wednesday, because 2 months ago, the first time they did it, they missed it by a mile, and last month they missed it by a half a mile. So it'll be interesting to see if they risk their reputation once again by actually giving us a projection of what is going to take place. Do they think it's going to be different than what the street is predicting? All right. After all that, let's take a look at where the market is. Earlier, Tesla was doing quite well this morning. Let's see if they still are. Tesla is up now $7. It has gone straight up from the opening. It was only up about $4 before the opening. So we're back now to the 171, 172 range, which is kind of where we were before all of the craziness last week with the announcement about, not the announcement, but the reporting that the Model 2 was now off the table. We have but now we've had the alternative announcements with regard to Robotaxi. So boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's so much fun. $7 now up. We've got the Dow Jones up 57. We got the NASDAQ up 18, S&P up 2, kind of going along with what I've suggested. I'm expecting tepid moves in equities until Wednesday, as they are probably going to be nervous about what the CPI print is gonna do. We have got the rest of the Magnificent Seven all over the place. You got Meta down a little bit, Apple down. Everybody else is up this morning. I'm sorry, did I say NVIDIA? Yeah, NVIDIA is down also. So 50-50 roughly, if you can have 7 stocks, be it 50-50. So I would say it's a little more red than green. No, a little more green than red right now. Okay, and then Cathie Woods are all up. Wow, this is pretty amazing. The Cathie Woods are all up. And yet I already know that the bond yields are up. So that's crazy. All right, let's go take a look at the percentages here. We've got the Dow up 0.13. We got the NASDAQ up 0.12 and the S&P up 0.05 with Tesla up 4.20, sitting almost exactly at 172. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening with those bonds. And the bonds are pulling back a little from where they were pre-market, but the 10-year is up 3.4 basis points at 4.412. The 2-year is up almost the same, just a little bit less, 2.9 basis points at 4.761, putting that inversion at about 3.5, about 35. Keep that power's at 10. About 35 basis points, which is about where it's been. But the 2-month is unchanged this morning, which is narrowing that for the first time in a very, very long time, under 100 basis points. Again, what we were told by one pundit, just one pundit, but I thought it was interesting, is that the 10-year will increase to match the shorter terms as opposed to the opposite way around. That's not the direction I'd like to see it happen. But if this is ever gonna uninvert, that's the direction this guy says it will take. But I have no idea whether he's right, but it is worth thinking about. All right, we've got the oil market this morning. We've got the oil down half a buck, up down 62 cents actually, 86.29, still extremely high, with Brent still over 90. Got natural gas going up a bit this morning, but $1.80. We now know that it needs to get to 250 before they'll start putting more of the oil rigs back in action in that Permian area. Okay, we've got gold up another $3.90 this morning at $2,349. We've got copper up this morning at $4.28. It just is, every day copper is up. So that is up this morning 1.13%. We've got the dollar edging higher, continuing higher. So gold's up, oil's up, gas up, yields up, and then we get to the Bitcoin up 2,645 at 71,908, getting very, very close, within range of those earlier highs. Okay, going back and looking once again at Tesla, almost exactly the same, hasn't changed at all since we last looked, sitting up $6.92 at 171.82. Odd that it's still sitting exactly there. I'm going to just refresh this just real quick here to see. Yeah, now $6.67. So there's a little topping off, we look like we might be maxing out here, at least for the time being. All right. That's all we have. Went a little long today because guess what? There was a lot to talk about. But what do we know about tomorrow? I mean, the rest of the day. Brian White later this morning, probably Larry Goldberg helping us bring in the good news tonight. And then yesterday, if you haven't seen it yet, I did those two videos yesterday are must-sees, the morning and the afternoon. Lots and lots of stuff about what's happening with this entire thing, about the Gen 3 vehicle, the Model 2, whatever you call the thing. And also with regard to Robotaxi, ideas with regard to what that might mean in terms of Uber, what it might not mean. Everybody has an opinion on Uber in this regard. Anyway, a lot of cool stuff. Go ahead and take a look at that. I will put the card right up here. So with that said, it has been great talking to you.